Israel. Bear with us.
Was I supposed to be doing something with the Holy Holies, like organizing or some shit like that?
Oh, you didn't come. What happened to it? Like someone had a party.
Second.
Like somebody had a party.
Oh, so you can go, you fix it before. You gotta find like another place for people to put random shit. Right. It's got a lot of cap. You said we live?
Yeah.
Cool.
La Yashra'ala, which means to Israel.
Imagine, which means to stand. Pong Abadam, which means turn your face to east.
We're going to send up the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew, and then we're going to translate it into English. Repeat after me. Abanaw. Shabbat Shemayim. Kodash. Hayah. Shamka. Yahweh. Malakaka. Baba'ah. Natazayaka. Hayah. Aisha. Baratazah. Kawok. Hayah. Bashemayim. Dananawa. Cow. Yawuk. Wasalak now. Kabobak now. Wasalak now. Kabobak now. Aye now. Sayawud. Bo. Shai now. Ayun. Rod. Kayuk. Lakab. Amalakwa. Wa'alam.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. In earth. As it is in heaven. Give us this day. Our daily bread. And forgive us our debts. As we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation. But deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom. And the power. And the glory. Forever. So be.
This is the Hakat, the prayer for the power. Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahushua. Baba Kashar. The Thundernaw. Hakat. Larapa'ah. Makala. Wakal Madawa. Hakat. Latahor. Abatazariah. Hakat. Hakat. Arakawa. Tama'ala. The Lord's Son. Ba'ashem Yahushua. Wada Amon.
In the English, Yahweh in the name of Yahweh. Please give us the power. Power to heal. All manner of sickness. And all manner of disease. The power to cleanse the leper. The power to raise the dead. The power against the unclean spirit. To cast them out. In the name of Yahweh. Thank you. So be.
This is the prayer to bless Israel. Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahushua. Barak Lanab. Wayashra'ala. Wayabayat. Saparia. Ba'ashem Yahushua. Wada Amon.
Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shah.
Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shah.
Bless us.
Bless us.
And Israel.
And Israel.
And the school.
And the school.
In the name of Yahweh Shah.
In the name of Yahweh Shah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So be it.
So be it. This is the prayer for the blessings in Hebrew. Barakatah Yahweh.
Barakatah Yahweh.
Wa Yahweh Shah.
Wa Yahweh Shah.
Wa Ma'aka Allah.
Wa Ma'aka Allah.
Wa Alahayim.
Wa Alahayim.
Wa Tazaba'ah.
Wa Tazaba'ah.
Alawap Yahan.
Alawap Yahan.
Alawap Yahan.
Alawap Yahan.
Asaronyam.
Asaronyam.
Kwatazayanyam.
Akwatazayanyam.
Akayayam.
Akayayam.
Wa Awapim.
Wa Awapim.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Wa Hashem Yahweh Shah.
Hashem Yahweh Shah.
Wa Rahman.
Can you let the brother in? Come. Prayer for the blessings in the English. Bless you, Yahweh.
Bless you, Yahweh.
And Yahweh Shah.
And Yahweh Shah.
And Michael.
And Mike.
And the angel.
And the angel.
Commander General Yahweh.
Commander General Yahweh.
The general.
The general.
The captain.
The captain.
The officer.
The officer.
The trooper.
The trooper.
And the sisters.
And the sisters.
Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shah.
Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So be it.
So big. This is Psalms 121 in Hebrew. Aisha'ah.
Aisha'ah.
Ayanya.
Ayanya.
Al-Hahari.
Al-Hahari.
Ma'ayan.
Ma'ayan.
Yaba'ah.
Yaba'ah.
Aizoria.
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 Ma'ayin.
Ma'ayin.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Aisha.
Aisha.
Shamayim.
Shamayim.
Baratazah.
Baratazah.
Ayatun.
Ayatun.
Lamawat.
Lamawat.
Yagalka.
Yagalka.
Al-Yanawum.
Al-Yanawum.
Shamorka.
Shamorka.
Hana.
Hana.
La'ah.
La'ah.
Yanawum.
Yanawum.
Wala'ah.
Wala'ah.
Yayashun.
Yayashun.
Shawamor.
Shawamor.
Yashra Allah.
Yashra Allah.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Shamorka.
Shamorka.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Tazawka.
Tazawka.
Al-Ya.
Al-Ya.
Yamnika.
Yamnika.
Yawamuk.
Yawamuk.
Hashema.
Hashema.
La'ah.
La'ah.
Yakaika.
Yakaika.
Bayarak.
Bayarak.
Bayayawak.
Bayarak.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Yashamorka.
Yashamorka.
Karak.
Karak.
Yashamor.
Yashamor.
Ahmapashka.
Ahmapashka.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Yashamor.
Yashamor.
Taza'atka.
Taza'atka.
Wabawa'aka.
Wabawa'aka.
Bayatak.
Bayatak.
Wa'ayin Aibalum.
In English. I will lift up my eyes into the hills.
I will lift up my eyes into the hill.
From whence cometh my help?
From whence cometh my
My
help?
help coming from the Lord.
My help cometh from the Lord.
Which made heaven and earth.
Which made heaven and earth.
He will not suffer thy foot to be moved.
He will not suffer thy foot to be
He
moved.
that keepeth thee
He that keepeth
will
thee
not slumber.
will not slumber.
Behold,
Behold,
he that keepeth Israel.
he that keepeth Israel
shall neither slumber nor sleep.
shall neither slumber nor sleep.
The Lord is thy keeper.
The Lord is thy keeper.
The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand.
The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand.
The sun shall not smite thee by day.
The sun shall not smite thee by day,
Nor the moon by night.
nor the moon by night.
The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil.
The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil.
He shall preserve thy soul.
He shall preserve thy
The
soul.
Lord shall preserve thy going out.
The Lord shall preserve thy going out
And thy coming in.
and thy coming in.
From this time forth.
From this time forth
And even forevermore.
and even forevermore. Psalms 83 in Hebrew. Al-Hayim.
Al-Hayim.
Al-Damialaka.
Al-Damialaka.
Al-Dakarash.
Al-Dakarash.
Al-Dashakwat.
Al-Dashakwat.
Al. Kayahana.
Kayahana.
Al-Yabyaka.
Al-Yabyaka.
Yahamah.
Al-Amah.
Yawan.
Yawan.
Ra'ash.
Ra'ash.
Al-Aimaka.
Al-Aimaka.
Yarayamwa.
Yarayamwa.
Sawadat.
Sawadat.
Ayatak.
Sawadat.
Ya'aitazawa.
Ya'aitazawa.
Al-Tazapawanyaka.
Al-Tazapawanyaka.
Amorwa.
Amorwa.
Rakawat.
Rakawat.
Anakakira.
Anakakira.
Magalia.
Magalia.
Wala'ah.
Wala'ah.
Yasakor.
Yasakor.
Shom Yasra Allah.
Shom Yasra Allah.
Ayawada.
Ayawada.
Kaya.
Kaya.
Ya'aitazawa.
Ya'aitazawa.
The book.
The book.
Yakadwa.
The code.
Al-Yakub. Horiya. Yakarakwa. Al-Haya. Al-Awum. Al-Yashimai. Al-Ayum.
Al-Ayum.
Al-Abu.
Al-Abu.
Al-Gorium.
Al-Gorium.
Al-Ball. Al-Nuwan. Al-Mulak. Al-Shah. Al-Yashabya. Tazawur. Gamashawur. Dalawat. Al-Mum. Hayawat. Zarawat. Bayalawat. Aisalaham. Madian. Kasaya. Ayabyan. Manakal. Wayashwan. Wasamadwa. Ba'ayun. Ba'ayawak. Gaman. Dutma. Sayatumwa. Nadab Yakmawa. Kaira. Kazabak. Kazazalmanan. How not see a Kumwa. Ashur. Amorwa. Irishak. Nalawak. Nawak. Alayim. Sayatumwa. Kagala. Watch. Keep not thy silence, O Yahweh. Keep not thy silence, O Yahweh. Hold not thy peace. Hold not thy peace. And be not still, O Yahweh. And be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult. And they that hate thee. Have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel. Against thy people. And consulted. Against thy hidden ones. They have said. Come. Let us cut them off. From being a nation. That the name of Israel. May be no more. And remember. For they have consulted together. With one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom. And the Ishmaelites. Of Moab. And the Hagarenes. Gabal. And Amalek. The Philistines. With the inhabitants of Tyre. As sure also was joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. Selah. Do unto them. As unto the Midianites. As to Sisera. As to Jabin. The brook of Kishon. Which perished at Endor. They became as dirt for the earth. Make their noses like a red. And like the air. All their princes. As Zabak. And as Zamuna. Who said. Let us take to ourselves. The houses of Yahweh. In possession. Oh my power. Make them like a wheel. As the stubble before the wind. As the fire burneth the wood. And as the flame set the mountains on fire. So persecute them. With thy tempest. And make them afraid. With thy storm. Fill their faces with shame. That they may seek thy name. O Yahweh. Let them be confounded. Trouble forever. Yea. Let them be put to shame. And perish. That men may know. That thou. Whose name alone. Is Yahweh. Art the Most High. Over all the earth. So. Or you can come over to situation. Okay.
Award, Banyamin, Banyashala. Yahweh Hashem Yahshua Bakathum. Come. Start off at Deuteronomy 24:7. Well, you can start off. I'll take the next up.
Come. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24 and verse 7. Kaya, kawas like wa taza'a, ashar, it's like ayash, baka, it's like kaba, naga, ya, yan, buwa, like washa yashua ali, waha the I mar bun na ha run wa ma ha kawa ha ya na naba I ra ha ra ma ra ba Hashamar ba na I ha tazar ya ha tazar ra I la shamar ma la wala I sha ra wa kakao ashor wa na rash ata come ha wa yum ha la wa yum ha shor taza wa thumb the sham ma ra yun sluggy the shama rhyme la I sha na za ka right ka wa ka ya ra ashore I sha ya hawa alaha ya alahaya la ma ra wum bad ra ba tazar the kham mama tazar right wum ka verse 10 ba khawa da sha ha ba ra'ai ma sha ma'aya la the ba al Bawatha, la, I ba, yeah. Baha, wa, what? Oh, sorry. The I, the I, my.
You can start at verse 14.
Come. What yash. I saw. I thought. Nasha. Ba, wo. Ya na tza ya la ya ha I ba wa ha wa tza wa an wa ayash I yawo ha wa la the sha ba ya. You see verse 14. Come. Sha the shaya la wo I ba wa ya wa Sluggy shamash wa sha ba sha la mafia wa Sluggy wa Sluggy wa la I the higher wa tizad ya la gawoya la ga wa ya hawa ala ha wa ya.
That's it.
Yeah, come class.
I want you to take it start at Deuteronomy 24:7.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter and the 7th verse. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and maketh merchandise of him, or selleth him, then that thief shall die, and thou shalt put evil away from among you.
The scripture is of course, talking about kidnapping and putting your own brothers, your own people into slavery. You can't take somebody against their will and put them in slavery, make them merchandise, sell them like any commodity, sell them like a bottle of water or crops or food. You can't do that. You can't do that to your own brothers, to your own people. That is against the law. Anybody that does that will be put to death or will be killed according to the law, under the law. And of course, these things are commonplace today in America. Well, not not necessarily today in America, but these things are commonplace in American history because of the wickedness of our oppressors, the wickedness of people who decide not to follow God's laws and enslave and kidnap their own people. Go ahead.
Would it be the same as a Jake taking a young Eve and sex trafficking her?
That's exactly it. Anytime, like I said, kidnapping. The first part of the scripture is really just taking somebody against their will. Let's say stealing somebody, and then after that, using them like a commodity definitely somebody being sex trafficked. That's a big thing. I'm glad you brought it up. That's the big thing that's been going on in the past few years. They've been trying to shed light on is sex trafficking, and this scripture definitely is a scripture that shows you how that is that act of forcing a woman, taking her against her will, and then making her do sexual acts for money. That is against the law, against God's laws, and everything in the Bible, everything that we know to be right and wrong, everything that we just know as common sense is right and wrong can be found in the Bible. Without the Bible, we wouldn't have any of these things. Without the Bible, we wouldn't have any moral code, any rules. We would just be animals. But with the Bible and with the aspiration of the Most High, we know and understand that there are things that are right, there are things that are wrong. But without it, we wouldn't have that moral code. People today in the world, even though they may sin, even though they do things that are wrong, most of them know that what they're doing is wrong. Somebody that is selling drugs knows it's wrong. Somebody that is sex trafficking, that's a pimp or a whore or a prostitute, they know what they're doing is wrong. But all those things, the reason they know that it's wrong is because they open up. Is because the society they live in stole from the Bible, stole from the culture of the Israelites, and tried to fashion society out of it. But the basis of morality, the basis of what is right and what is wrong is found in the Bible. That's the foundation for everything that is right and wrong. Without that, we would have no right and wrong. Without that, we would just do what we want to do. We would just have sex with what we want to have sex with. We would just eat what we want to eat. We would just live how we want to live. But because of the Bible, we know that there is a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. You can move on.
Verse 8. Take heed in the plague of leprosy that thou observe diligently, and do according to all that the priest, the Levite, shall teach you.
The plague of leprosy. There are in the Bible. There are other provisions and laws about people who have leprosy. And people who have leprosy in the Old Testament, they are unclean and they couldn't come into the temple. But there also are certain provisions, meaning, I believe if the leprosy in general, I believe if the leprosy is continually spreading, that makes you unclean. But if it's just a spot on you that stops growing, you're not unclean. You can come in. If the leprosy isn't growing, you can come in. Different provisions like that. The scripture is saying to listen to the Levites, listen to the priests about their guidance on how to deal with particular people that have leprosy, that have that affliction. In general, people who are lepers meaning they're losing the pigment in their skin. Those people, what's the common day term? Vitiligo or something like that? Vitiligo. I think that the common modern day term is vitiligo. But those people in the past are called lepers. Go ahead.
Or somebody that has diabetes, they say they have sugar and their skin is like they're losing their pigment.
I never heard of that, but that would apply. The scripture, of course, back then they didn't know about diabetes and all that. I think Michael Jackson had. That's what they say. Me personally, I think he had. I think he's crazy. He had chemically induced vitiligo. That's my personal opinion. But scriptures talk about in general people, like I said, who are losing the pigment in their skin, turning white essentially. Those is laws about them being clean or unclean, and given in certain circumstances. And this scripture is specifically saying to heed to the guidance of the Levites about whether or not those people can come into the temple on a person-to-person basis, because according to the law, it's not all every person. Sometimes when the disease is growing, that's when you can't come in. But if it stops, if it's not growing, you can come to the temple. Go ahead.
As I commanded them, so ye shall observe to do.
Once again, the Levites are commanded to bar certain people from coming to the temple, allow others to come in. And as far as the people who are lepers, the Levites are given the authority to discern whether or not people can or cannot come into the temple based upon their given illness. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy 24, verse 9.
Go ahead,
brother had a question online. He said, is hyperpigmentation a form of leprosy, and would that make someone unclean?
Hyperpigmentation. I'm not familiar with the particular disease, but I know in general, if the like I said, the pigmentation in your skin is spreading. Typically, leprosy is more so about spotting. You know, when your skin, because leprosy typically starts off small and it grows throughout your skin. I'm not particularly aware of that particular disease. We can look it up, but in general, leprosy is referring to when your skin starts off spotting and it grows to where your whole body, your whole arm isn't your original color. You look it up right quick.
Come on.
Okay, now today, because of the mercy of Christ, all these people are allowed to go to school. And according to the scriptures, according to the Old Testament, there's many people who are barred from being around the people. Midgets. Is that the common term? I think is that like a slur now? Midgets. Little people. Little people. According to the scriptures, in the Bible they call them dwarfs, I believe. Those people couldn't come around. They would have to be. They would be shunned from the people in general. They couldn't be around the congregation, the rest of the nation. Lepers, people like that. I think the other week we went over people who are not eunuchs, but what's the word? Men whose genitals got cut off. Those people can come around. There's a long list of people with different ailments, different diseases, different conditions that could not come around. People whose mothers were heathens. People like that, so-called mixed people. They couldn't come around the congregation, but through the mercy of Christ and His forgiveness and the forgiveness of the Most High, today those people are allowed into the school. They can come into the class, but they're allowed to come in and learn in general. But you still, even though those people can still come in and learn, come into the school, it's still good to go back into the commandments and learn the culture of the times past. And know what these laws are. You got a definition of them?
Yeah, Common Con. That's a definition of hyperpigmentation. Hyperpigmentation, it occurs when special cells in the skin make too much of the pigment called melanin. Hyperpigmentation may appear as freckles, age spots, or larger areas of darkened skin.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like leprosy, or what people in old times would call leprosy. That seems like the opposite of leprosy, where you grow dark patches on your skin, and leprosy isn't referring to that. Leprosy, like I said, is referring to people losing melanin in their skin. So I don't believe it. So hyperpigmentation, I don't believe is an example of leprosy. However, like I said, people who do have those conditions are allowed into the congregation through the mercy of Christ. They can come here and come to the ISUPK and learn. Go ahead.
But yes, like I said, if I could, the same thing would happen with Moses. When he put his hand into his garment and he pulled it out, and it turned leprous. All turning, all
Common.
You know what I'm saying? And even what happened with Moses' sister. When found out that his sister was talking about Moses, and he turned her, leprous, and she wasn't allowed around the congregation. That whole unclean thing is just to prevent things to spread around.
Yeah, and also, you go.
Oh no, so like I said, you got to say.
No, I was going to say all those laws, the spirit behind them is to, like Barzal said, for none of it to spread, either for the disease not to spread, or for the people who have the condition to not procreate. So like the thing with the dwarfs, with the little people. Those people are barred from being around everybody, so we don't have more little people. So we don't have more people who have that condition. The lepers were barred from coming around, from being in the congregation, so they don't procreate, get married, and now we have more people who have leprosy. That's the spirit or the spirit or the intent behind the law. Oh. So any other questions?
That was it.
We're going to read over.
Deuteronomy 24, verse 9. Remember what the Lord thy power did unto Miriam by the way, after that ye were come forth out of Egypt. When thou dost lend thy brother anything, thou shalt not go into his house to fetch his pledge.
When it was lend thy brother anything, thou shalt not go into his house to fetch his pledge. So this scripture is talking about you letting a brother borrow something. You letting a brother or sister borrow something. Today, in these times, it might have been, you let somebody borrow, a tool, or typically something for farm work. Now, typically, if we let anybody borrow anything, it's money. Typically, you might let them borrow your money, your car for a time, something like that. As time goes on, things may change. But in general, things of value that you let somebody borrow for a time, that you eventually expect to get it back. Read it one more time.
When thou dost lend thy brother anything, thou shalt not go into his house to fetch his pledge.
So when you let your brother borrow something, you let him borrow some money, your car, you let him stay in your house for a time, you let him do any given scenario. You don't go into his house to fetch your pledge. Your pledge is the thing that is promised to you. That's why it's a pledge. The Pledge of Allegiance, or things like that. It's a pledge, a promise. That pledge is the thing that's promised to you. So meaning, if you let somebody borrow something and you're expecting it back, don't go steal it back, or don't because somebody owes you something. You go into their house. You go to them. You take from them the thing that they owe you. Don't do that. That's something that happens a lot in the black community. Somebody owe you money, they take it too damn long to give it back. That's when you go to put hands on them to get your money back. That's when you go get to threaten them to get your money back. That happens a lot with black and Hispanic people, and Native Indian people.
So like I said,
Go ahead.
If I could, what they call that, Indian
Indian giver.
Somebody use something and they want to take it back. You ain't gonna let them use it, or use it for that time that you said they were gonna use it. Don't be unjust and go ahead and by your free will, go ahead and take it back. You may not know. The person may need it for a little bit longer time than they expected. You understand?
They might not have money right now. Right. They might still need a little more time to get it back.
Don't.
The point is, do not. If you let somebody borrow something, don't go into their house to take it back.
Right.
You are to wait to get it back, or get it back in a more merciful means. Ask for it back, but don't go and take back what you're owed. Go ahead.
Verse 11, thou shalt stand abroad, and the man to whom thou dost lend shall bring out the pledge abroad unto thee.
That man that owes you something that has your pledge, or has what was promised to you, promised back to you. You are to wait outside of his house. You're not to go unto him. You are to wait outside of his house, and he'll grab it and he'll bring it to you. Once again, the spirit on this whole law is that you don't go take back what you're owed. You don't go steal back what you're owed. You have mercy on your brother, patience with your brother, and allow him the time to give it back to you. We don't.
Verse 12, and if the man be poor, thou shalt not sleep with his pledge.
And if a man be poor, you shall not sleep with his pledge. This is talking about if a poor man lends money. If a poor man lets somebody borrow something, lets you borrow something, you are not to sleep on his pledge. Meaning the thing you owe him, the thing you owe this poor man, you aren't to be patient about giving it back to him. You want to sleep on it. You want to forget about it. You want to be lazy about giving him back his money. We don't.
Verse 13, in any case thou shalt deliver him the pledge again when the sun goeth down, that he may sleep in his own raiment and bless thee.
But that poor man, you in short time, when the sun goes down, you are to give him back what he needs, because he needs that to survive. That's why I said when the sun goes down, in his own raiment, Meaning he needs that to survive. He needs that to live. He needs that to sleep, to eat. So you are to not sleep on his pledge. You want to be lazy about it. You want to be patient about it. As soon as you can, as soon as you can give that thing back, give it back to him. Read verse 13 from the top again.
In any case, thou shalt deliver him the pledge again when the sun goeth down, that he may sleep in his own raiment and bless thee.
And bless thee. That brother that lent to you, and that you gave him, and he gave you, and you gave him his pledge back, he'll bless you. He'll bless thee. He'll pray that the Most High bless you. And the Most High will bless you for being merciful on that brother and not sleeping on his pledge, not being lazy about giving him his money back because he needs it. You know?
And it shall be righteousness unto thee before the Lord thy power.
And the Lord will look down on it as righteous. The Lord will see it and know you are righteous, merciful, kind. You have brotherhood. You have love for your brother because you didn't, like I said, sleep on your pledge. You weren't lazy about giving his brother what he needed. You're giving him back what he needed in order to live. All right, read on.
Verse 14. Thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy.
A hired servant. If you own a business or you have somebody working for you, you want to oppress a hired servant. You want to oppress your employees. Read from the top again.
Thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy.
Particularly a hired servant, you're an employee that is poor and needy. Somebody working for you that doesn't have any money, doesn't have any wealth, doesn't have any power, that is in need, that needs money, needs assistance, needs security. Real?
Whether he be of thy brethren or of thy stranger that are in thy land within thy gates.
And this is anybody. This is anybody that's under you that is hired help. An employee, you want to be oppressive to them. You want to, pay them low wages. You want to, not pay them at all. You are not to oppress the people that you hire to work for you. And once again, morality is in the Bible. Morality, everything that is right and wrong is in the Bible. And even though in the scriptures, we read and know that Israel is the Lord's favorite. Israel is the Lord's favorite, and part of the reason, or not even part of the reason, but the benefit to being the Lord's favorite is that we get laws and guidance on how to treat others. The laws and guidance on how to treat others, and even people outside of our race. If they work for us, we aren't going to impress them. We aren't going to do what they would do to us. We aren't going to do what they do to us every day in America, which is pay you $7.25 in 2021. Have a minimum wage of $7.25 in 2021, and when you don't want to work, when you don't get hired, they call you lazy. They call you lazy and say you don't want to work. When maybe you don't want to go to work because it's not worth your time. It's not worth your time to work for $7.25, $10 an hour. It's not worth a grown person's time. He's unable to spend all that time working for that little bit of money when he got to pay rent and pay child support and take care. And the sister got to take care of her kids and pay for daycare. That's the type of oppression that America puts on black people today. But under the Most High, under God, with the laws He gave us, He gave the Israelites, He gave black people, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we will be much better rulers, much better bosses, much better business owners. Because in our scriptures, we are told to not oppress any employee, any hired help, especially those who are poor and needy. All right, then we're gonna drop that. We're gonna go to the Hebrew. We're gonna start Deuteronomy 24 and 24 and 15, and I'm gonna go down to 21. So. Baya, Wamwa, Thun, Shaka, Rowa, Wala'a, Thabawa'a, Ayawa, Hashamaha, Kaya, Ain, Anya, Hawa'a, Wa'a, La, Yaha, Hawa'a, Nasha'a, Af, Napa, Napa, Shawa, Wala'a, Yaquara, Al Yaka, Al Yahweh, Wahaya, Wa Hayaha, Maka, Ka, Ta'a, La'a, Yawa, Ma, Thawa, Aba, Wa, Tha, Al, Banayam, Wabana, Yama, La'a, Yawa, Ma, Thawa, Al, Abawatha, Ayasha, Baka, Ta, Awa, Yawam, Thawa, La'a, Fataha, Mashapa, Ta, Dara, Yathawam, Wala'a, Thaka, Bala, Ba, Bada, Bagada, Alama, Naha, Wazaka, Ra. That's like Wazaka, Rath, Kaya, Abada, Haya, Yaf, Bama, Tazara, Yamum, Yum, Wayaga, the Ka, Yahweh, Al, Hayaka, Mashama, Al, Kun, Ana, Kaya, Matazawam, Al, Shawatha, Af, Hadabar, Hazaha, Kaya, Fa Quatazar, Quatazaya, Raka, Basha, Daka, Wa, Shaka, Ka, Tha, Imra, Basha, Daha, La'a, Thasha, Waba, Laqua, Ka, Thawa, Lagadara, Laya, Thawama, Wala, Allah, Manaha, Yaha, Lama Aina, Yabara, Ka, Yahweh, Al Hayaka, Bakal, Ma'ai Shahab, Yada Haka, Kaya, Thaka, Bata, Zaya, Thaka, La'a, Thapa, Ara, Aka, Rayaka, Lagadara, Laya, Tha, Wama, Wa, La, Lamanaha, Yaha, Kaya, Thabatazara, Karama, Ka, La'a, Tha'ai, Wala, La, Aka, Yaka, Lagadara, Laya, Tha, Wama, Wala, La, Manaha, Yaha.
It's like this other question. In the Assyrian, in the third to last verse, in verse 18, that ma shama, is that ma a different ma because it's an ending in the Assyrian? So he said,
I ain't no
ma
Hebrew stuff, man. That's no
shama.
word. Where we at?
Do it right here. Ma shama.
And was that different from another?
Right, because that ma in the beginning is different from that ma at the end, because it's, you said it was ma shama.
What verses again?
Verse 18. That's
At the beginning of the end of verse 18.
Shah.
Because at the ending, on the end, it's here, right?
It's like I'm not no Hebrew. I don't know how to pronounce the letters. Go ahead.
Can a word ask this question?
He was asking because the word said ma shema, but the ma at the end of that word was written slightly different.
I can explain this. The reason why it's different is because if you look at the chart, right?
Come.
If you notice, right, the ma at the beginning, that's what it would look like, and that's a ma at the end.
Come.
And you're gonna notice that, not just with that character, you'll notice that with the ka or the na or the pa, it's za as well. In the beginning, it may be, in the beginning, that's how it would look, and at the end, that's how it would look.
It's a different ending. Come.
Same character, it's just that it's the same thing. It's a ma. Both of them are a ma, but one goes at the beginning and one goes at the end.
Come. Watch.
Good, like if it was in the ancient, it would have to have that ending on the mouth.
Right.
We had Deuteronomy 24 and 15.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter and the 15th verse. At his day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it.
Read verse 14 again just so we can context.
Verse 14, thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy.
As we went over before, we went into the Hebrew. You are not, according to the law, you're not allowed to oppress a poor and hired servant. So like a hired servant, the poor and needy hired servant. Though as an employer, as a boss, somebody running a business, you aren't allowed to oppress the people that are working for you. Read on.
Whether he be of thy brethren or of thy stranger that are in thy land within thy gates.
And this is somebody who is an Israelite, who is Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian, or somebody who is outside of your people who was working for you. The people that you hire, the people that you get with you to run a business, to go do a job, anybody that you're paying for, so they're paying to work for you in whatever way you make money, whatever way you are paying the bills. That person, regardless of the race, you are to oppress those people. You are to be professional to them and merciful to them, the people that are under you, below you.
Right.
You know?
Verse 15. At his day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it, for he is poor.
On his day, referring to the day you're going to pay. The day when it's time for him to get all what he deserves for the work he put in. Read from the top. The top of that verse.
At his day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it, for he is poor.
On that day that he's supposed to get his paycheck, he's supposed to get what you owe him for the work he did. The sun is not to go down without him being paid.
Right.
You want to be lazy about it. You want to try to finesse him and not pay him. You ought to give him what he is owed on the time that you said you would give it to him.
Right.
You know?
And setteth his heart upon it, lest he cry against thee unto the Lord, and it be sin unto thee.
Because that man is poor. That man is poor. He needs the money that he worked for. He needs that money he worked for in order to live. And if not, he's going to be sorrowful, and he's going to pray. He's going to pray against you. That man is going to be against you, and the Most High is going to be against you because you are oppressing.
Right.
You are stealing from him. You are hiring him for a job and then not paying, or waiting to pay him, not paying him when he needs to be paid. Because once again, this person is poor and needs the money.
Right.
So the professional thing to do, the just thing to do is if you pay somebody for a service, if you requested a service and you agreed to pay them for the service, that you give the money on time. You give the money on the agreed time. Once again, all the things in many cultures, not just American culture, but all the things that are common sense to us today in many cultures across the earth, across the earth, the basis of those things are found in the Bible. The basis of those things are found in the Bible, and we take from the scriptures. Other nations, the earth takes from these scriptures when they make their own laws. When they make their own laws about how you're able to regulate and run a business. When they make their own laws with what's those things called, labor unions and whatnot. All those things are people learning common sense about how to deal with people originally from the Bible. Once again, this is the basis. The laws in this book are the basis of morality, the basis of what is right and what's wrong. Read on.
Verse 16. The fathers shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin.
Every man is going to be destroyed and killed for their own sin. And particularly the Levites, the priests, they are not to kill somebody. They weren't to kill or punish somebody else for the sins of their fathers or for the sins or a child's sins. A father wouldn't be killed for his child's sin, and particularly as the scripture is talking about. Meaning, if I committed adultery, my children wouldn't be killed for it. I will be killed for it. If my child was a murderer, he will be put to death. He will be killed, but not me for it. And many of these laws are punishments and how to punish, how to lead. It's not just us personally in our personal lives and how we should do things, but it's also how the government should be ran, right. How punishments should be laid down, how things should be regulated in a society. Before we move on to the next verse, just so the brothers in the class, just so you know, today is the Sabbath. Friday sundown to today's sundown, Saturday sundown is the Sabbath. It's a high holy day. It's a day that the Lord separates from every other day of the week. It's a day of rest according to the Bible. And every high holy day we observe. We come to the school and we observe the Sabbath, or we observe that high holy day. This high holy day is a weekly high holy day, and we have the Sabbath service for the Sabbath day. For the Sabbath, like I said, the Sabbath is a day of rest. It's a day of rest, and particularly from meaning a day where you don't work, where you don't go out and do the thing that you do all the time to make money to pay your bills. Go ahead, bro.
Quick question. The Sabbath start at sundown
Friday.
Friday night, right? And all right, so because the way I was taught was that we come together at the Sabbath,
Meaning as soon as the sun goes down.
So the sun goes down.
You could, but traditionally we just do it. It got to be observed, but it got to be observed during the time of the Sabbath.
All right, so then I was taught after that.
Or sometime after sundown.
Sabbath over, and the sun go down. It's a celebration.
It's a celebration. Okay, I don't. When the Sabbath is over.
Yeah, like Holy Convocation. Friday night when the sun go down, Holy Convocation.
Right.
Then we rush through the Sabbath. Then when the Sabbath over, it's a celebration.
You would have to show me that. You have to show me in the scriptures about that, but I'm not familiar with there being a celebration after the Sabbath is over. But most definitely we observe it any holy day. Like I said,
I'm saying
a feast. A feast. Okay, any feast you are going to celebrate, but you're going to celebrate during the time of the feast or of the high holy day.
All right, so if there's a feast after the Sabbath, is a feast?
No, it's not. You can do it. You can do it if you wanted to, but it's not on the law. It's not a law. You can do it if you wanted to, but I have heard no law that you have to gather together or congregate, have a feast, anything like that after the Sabbath. But if you wanted to, you could, but it's not a law. It's not. You got it. Come. Read on the verse. Yes.
This is the book of Deuteronomy 24, verse 17. Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge.
Don't take advantage of these certain types of people. Don't take advantage of people in need, people in dark times. Read from the top again.
Verse 17. Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge. And
once again, the Bible just teaches you simple common sense honor and respect for everything around you.
Right.
Don't take advantage. Don't be out there trying to swindle people. Right. People outside of Israel, don't be out there lying to them, trying to swindle them and steal from them. But it says the widows, the fatherless. These are people who are in weak. Especially in these times, it wasn't like today when it was so easy for a woman to go out and work. It was so easy for a woman out to go and get a job and support ourselves. Back then, the economies didn't work that way. Back then, in order to feed yourself, you had to go out and till the ground and grow crops and lift up a log. And actually, you had to do a lot in order to. You couldn't just sit in the office. You couldn't just work in a factory. You couldn't just go to Walmart and get a job. And this time, it was mainly men who had to go out and make the money, make a living, grow food, and sustain a living. So if you were a widow and your husband died, you were in a bad way. You were in a bad way. You were in need of help. You were in need of help if your husband died as a woman. So those people, we aren't to pervert their judgment. We aren't to try to trick them. We aren't to abuse them. The fatherless, a child, somebody young whose father died. That person is without a support system. They don't have a father there to support them, to feed them, to clothe them. Those people that are in dire straits, we are not to lie to them, swindle them for our own gain, to pervert their judgment, to coerce them, or get them to do something that they wouldn't do otherwise for our own benefit. But for your own benefit.
Verse 18. But thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and the Lord thy power redeemed thee thence. Therefore, I command thee to do this thing.
So you're going to remember as a whole Israel, we should remember the time when we were down bad. Remember the time when we were in slavery, when we were bound in Egypt, and how eventually the Most High saved us, the Most High redeemed us, the Most High took us out of that captivity. We should remember that. We should remember that and know that we shouldn't. And when we see other people in dire straits, when we see our own people in dire straits, in bonds, poor and destroyed, to not abuse them, or try to pervert their judgment and swindle them to do something that they typically wouldn't do.
Right.
Because they're in such dire straits, because they're in such an impoverished state. You had a question, brother?
Yeah, you was talking about the perversion of God's judgment, right?
Yeah.
No, but
Or not God's judgment, but the judgment of the particular person. Pervert their judgment, not God's judgment, but the judgment of the fatherless, the judgment of their decision.
Fatherless.
Yeah, the scripture talking about the fatherless and the widow as examples.
Oh, okay.
Meaning their judgment, meaning their decision making. So if I'm somebody, a widow, a woman whose husband died, they make certain decisions in order to survive. I shouldn't do anything to pervert her judgment because her husband is dead, she's poor, she needs help. I could come in and convince her to do something that she usually would not do. I could get her to make a decision that she wouldn't make.
God's judgment. So if you
Say again?
If you come influence her decision, that's what
Essentially. But essentially, the point is, don't get her to do anything wrong.
that she's not supposed to be doing.
Yes, because she might do because she's in such a bad way. I can get her to do something that she usually wouldn't do. Don't be that person. Don't be that.
Like
That's what it's
a
talking about.
widow. You
Yeah.
talking about a widow, right?
A widow, somebody, a woman, a wife whose husband died. That's what.
Something due to her.
Say again.
Like something that's due to her.
Something that's due to her.
Yeah, and she could go off making decisions. What's due to her, and as far as her being a widow, and you could pervert her judgment, so she won't get what's due to her. That's what you said.
That could.
You're not supposed to do that, right?
That could be an example, but I'm just saying, meaning don't get her to do something that she shouldn't do or wouldn't do, because she
Get her
typically
in trouble with her bastard, or if she
just with the Most High with anybody.
Alright.
Nobody in particular, just in general, that she wouldn't do this thing. She wouldn't.
I'm trying to understand. I was just trying to understand. I'm trying to.
Once again, her judgment, just in general. It's not talking about the judgment of her master or you got it. Her judgment in general. Don't pervert her judgment.
Deuteronomy 24, verse 18. But thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and the Lord thy power redeemed thee thence. Therefore I command thee to do this thing. Verse 19. When thou cuttest down thine harvest in thy field, and hast forgot a sheaf in the field, thou shalt not go again to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, that the Lord thy power may bless thee in all thy work of thine hands.
Once again, these laws are put in place to help those that are in need, the stranger people, meaning people a lot, somebody from another city, the fatherless, the widows, people who are in dire need of food, people who need to eat, who have no support system. If you farm, if you go out and you harvest in the field, when you harvest the field, certain part when you harvest the field, meaning when you gather your crops, you cutting down corn, you picking cotton, you gathering grapes. Some things that you gather are going to fall to the ground. Some of those things that are not going to be able to go into the basket go into whatever you are using to collect the crops. Some of those things are going to fall to the wayside. Those things, you don't go back and pick all those things up. Those things on that ground are for the poor, or for the fatherless, or for the widow, or for that stranger coming from another city coming through. Once again, these provisions are put in place to help the poor, help those that don't have a support system of their own. You know?
Verse 20, when thou beatest thine olive tree, thou shalt not go over the boughs again. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow.
When thou beatest thine olive tree, thou shalt not go over the boughs again. Meaning after you harvested, we at Deuteronomy 24 and 20. Deuteronomy 24 and 20. Meaning, when you go collect from that olive tree, you won't go back and try to find every single olive out of that olive tree. You'll leave some of that olive tree for the people who are in need to come back and gather for themselves, so they can eat, so they can support themselves.
Verse 21, Deuteronomy 24 and verse 21. When thou gatherest the grapes of thy vineyard, thou shalt not glean it afterward.
Once again, if you got a vineyard, you go in grapes, and when you go harvest from that vineyard, when you go gather those grapes up. Once you do your harvesting, you won't go back to the field and look at every vineyard, every vine, and make sure you got every grape that's out there. You'll leave anything that's left out there for the poor, for the fatherless, for the widow, for that stranger visiting from another city, away from home, with nowhere to be, nowhere to lay their head, nowhere to support themselves. You will leave that for them. And this provision, the provision like this in the Bible, this laws like this in the Bible, are made to support the poor. And it's so foreign in a place where nobody cares about the poor, where the poor receive in a society where the poor receive little to nothing. But in the Bible, the Most High is more merciful than that. More merciful than our oppressor, more merciful than our slave master, and there's provisions for those people who don't have a support system, who don't have any way to feed themselves.
It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow.
We're going to get back to the Hebrew, probably the last round. That's all you done. I'm going to Deuteronomy 24 and 22. You're going to go down to, let me count. You're going to go down to 20, go down to 25 and 6. Yeah, but you're going to start at 24 and 22.
You said Deuteronomy
24 and 22. Starting there. But he's going to read in the Hebrew. So I'll explain for the brothers that have never been to Sabbath service before. But during the Sabbath service, what we do is we read the Bible, we read the Old Testament, we read 7 verses in the Hebrew, and the ancient Hebrew first, and then we read it in the English, just so we all understand what we read in the Hebrew. This way, we it's a way to introduce brothers and sisters to our culture, and particularly to our language, through by reading the Hebrew. And then we read it in English, so we all understand, because many of us are not fluent in ancient Hebrew. Even if we can read it, we're not fluent in it. We don't know every word we're reading. So we move on to the English and read what we read in Hebrew and English, so we understand everything we read, and we learn the laws and history in the Old Testament. So it's a way of introducing our culture to the people during the Sabbath service, particularly the language, the laws, and the history in the Old Testament. So that's what we're doing. We like I said, we're gonna read 7 verses in the book of Deuteronomy in the ancient Hebrew, brother up here, and then we're gonna read it in English and break it down.
That's why you said verses 22 to
24 and 22. So. And then just read down to the next chapter, verse 6, 25 and 6. You got a question, remember? You can use the bathroom.
Right, so, I think this is eight.
So,
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24 and verse 22 in Hebrew. Wadakara kawa I bar hawawat ba'a ra'ai ma tazarayam al kaya ka anakabwa ma tazara la I shawa dabar so I get ka kawa ya so I get yaha rawa bawa anasha yum so I get na ba so I get na kasha al hamasha your woman washa gama woman hatazad wa yawa hatazad ya na rasha wa ain wa rashai sorry rashai ha sorry Yahweh sorry Yah sorry wa sorry by now sorry Hakawa Harasha na Gawala La Hasha Gawa Waha Kahan La Haga Wayan sorry one Kadwa Rasha I the what ba ma sa go walk rock sorry I rob I woman wa ka na la wa sa la ha sa alaha sorry Allah ha sorry bak na sorry aha wa la I wa ma la the come sorry the ma sha ra ba da wa sha Kawo, Washabya, Akawam, Wakadya, sorry, Wakad, Wamat, Akad, sorry, Mahama, Naba, Abwa, La'a, Waha, Aisha, Hamad, Wataza, La'a, Yawash, it's like watch. I Kara Mahama Salaki ba ma ba I lawa Naba ha la sha na wa Salaki yaha wa haba Salaki haba ya ashar tala'at waham al shema akawan hamad na la'a ha shama Allah, verse 7. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 25, and verse 7. This last verse.
Isupk Sabbath.
Come.
You can stop at this one verse. You have to start at verse 6. 24 and 22. Amen.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, 24th chapter and the 22nd verse. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt. Therefore I command thee to do this thing.
Again, the Most High, which is to always forgive and always remember, never forget things we went through in the past. Particularly right in this scripture, the Most High is saying to always remember that we were bondmen in Egypt. We were poor in Egypt. We were dependent on our slave master in Egypt. We were destroyed in Egypt. So moving forward, we should treat others and treat ourselves, our own people who are destroyed, who are impoverished, who need help. We should treat them with mercy, just like we would have loved to have mercy in Egypt. Just like we received mercy from the Most High in Egypt. Once we go on through the rest of our history, we should treat each other with that same level of mercy that the Most High showed us.
Right.
When we were down, when we were destroyed, when we were enslaved. And that's the spirit behind all these laws, to have mercy, to be kind when it's time to be kind, to have mercy when it's time to have mercy, to help those in need when it's time to help those in need. We don't. Chapter 24.
25 and 1. If there be a controversy between men, and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked.
And the judges shall judge them. In Israel, in our government system, in our culture, before we had kings, we had judges that ruled Israel. These were men who carried out punishment. These were men who delegated authority, the Most High's authority, throughout the nation. These are the men that you would go to when you wanted justice. These were the men that you would go to when you had an issue or a problem. These were the men that ran and protected Israel. The famous judge is Samson. Samson, he's a famous judge that, people that never even read the Bible know about Samson. He was a judge over Israel. He was somebody that had the authority to go out and fight for Israel, had the authority to make judgments between the people. So once again, Israel, before we had kings, we had judges. We had certain people throughout the nation who you would go to solve issues, to solve problems. Read from the top.
Verse 25 and 1, chapter 25 and verse 1. If there be a controversy between men, and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them.
The judges may judge them. A controversy. We have controversy all the time as people between each other, and it's natural. It's natural. I hate to say that, I never want to make it seem like, black people, we just love to argue and just love to fight. White people like to argue too. Chinese people, Asians, people in general like to argue. There's always controversy. There's always arguments between people. That's just natural. There's two people sitting in a room for too long, they're going to find a reason to argue about something. If there's controversy among you, you got a problem with your brothers. If a problem with your wife, you think somebody stole from you, they mistreated you. You think they might have had sex with your wife. They may have stolen. You think they stole from you. You know they stole from you. You got proof that they stole from you. You're having an argument, a disagreement, a fight, anything like that. If you had a controversy, you would go to these judges. You would go to these judges, and these judges would make a judgment. They would judge righteously. They would judge righteously about who was right, who was wrong, who should be punished, who should be forgiven. They will make a judgment. They will make a decision based upon what they hear the two sides of the argument say. We don't.
That the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous.
They shall justify the righteous. The brother or sister who was right in the situation, who didn't do anything wrong, they'll justify them. Let's say that you were right. You didn't do anything wrong. You were harmed. And the person that was evil, the person that did wrong,
and condemn the wicked.
Condemn the wicked. The person that was wrong, that did evil, they will be punished. They will be judged. They will be fined. They will have to pay the brother back, pay the sister back. They can be killed depending on how severe the crime or the situation is. They can be put to death if it was adultery or murder or something like that. But in general, whether the situation be small or big, we had and today have judges, people that you can go to hash out situations. And that's what the Isupk is doing. That's what the Isupk is doing all across the earth, all across the world. We have made a place where brothers and sisters can come and hash out their issues. Because obviously today, you can't do it in the courthouse. Because the white man gonna send you to jail forever. He gonna send you to jail. You try to hash out your disagreements in there, he gonna send you to jail forever. You're gonna be in there 30 years in jail. You try to hash your disagreements out in the courthouse with the white man, he's gonna put you on child support for 18 years. Maybe a few more years if the child decides to have a little aspiration to go to college, maybe 20, 23 years. The white man is unmerciful. The white man is unmerciful, and to put it in layman's terms, he overkills. When he want to fix a solution, he just blow it all up. He just destroy it all. He has no way to be concise or exact or be spiritual. He just knows how to tear everything down, or build something up, or just tear it down. That's what he knows how to do. He knows how to put a hefty fine on you. He knows how to lock you in jail, but he doesn't know how to sit down with these people and find a way to fix issues. And that's what Israel needs. And once again, that is what the Isupk provides.
Right.
But that definitely provides for every brother and sister who comes into the school. And we counsel people who are not in the school, people without Hebrew names, people who may never get a Hebrew name, may never actually be an official member. They can get a phone call. They can get a phone call. They can get a phone call with a donation, Lord willing. They can get a phone call. We can sit down with you, whether you're in the school or not, and hash out your issues and disagreements that you may have with each other in your family, with your wife, with your kids, with your father, your mother. And once again, that's what we need in the black community. We need somebody outside of our oppressor to go to hash out problems. We need somebody outside of the streets, outside of picking up a gun, outside of fighting, doing what we do every day, outside of doing that, to hash out our disagreements so we can do it in a peaceful and just manner where people who are wrong can be condemned for it, people who are right can be justified and praised for doing the right thing. Verse 2.
And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and to be beaten before his face, according to his fault, by a certain number.
And once again, punishments will be laid down. Back then, they laid you down and beat you. If the punishment, if the crime or the offense was worthy of this, they would lay you down and they would beat you according to how many times they thought you needed to be hit. You know.
Verse 3. 40 stripes he may give him, and not exceed, lest if he should exceed and beat him above these with many stripes, then thy brother should seem vile unto thee.
And that brother is punished, but he's not punished past, in particular in this scripture, talking about 40 stripes, meaning he wouldn't get whipped more than 40 times. And the spirit on that is also to be merciful. To be merciful. And if you're in charge, if you are a judge, if you are laying down judgments, you have to be merciful. You cannot just destroy people. And like I said before, Esau, our oppressor, is not merciful. He gonna give you all the strength that he can give you. He's gonna whip you until you pass out and die. But if you want to be a judge, you want to be a righteous judge, you gotta be merciful. You could say, kick you. Somebody mess up in the school, in our school, somebody mess up, you could just kick everybody out. You could kick everybody out. You could kick somebody out the first time they do anything wrong. The first time they mess up one time, you could kick them out, or you could say, I'm not going to kick you out, but you do have to pay this amount of money to the school. You do have to pay back that brother that you offended. You do have to change this and change that. You can work with people and be merciful with them so they got an opportunity to change. Because if you're not merciful with them, the person that you're punishing will just learn to hate you because it's not constructive. It's not constructive. You're not doing anything to improve them or fix them or give them another chance. You're just destroying them for a mistake they may have made or for a bad habit they can't break themselves out of. This scripture is saying to have the spirit of that particular law is to have mercy on a person so they don't hate you for being an overbearing judge.
Verse 4. Thou shalt not muzzle the ox when he treadeth out the corn.
This is another law off the topic. This is another law when you not to muzzle the ox when he treadeth out the corn. Once again, Israel is a farming culture. In the old times, now today's farmers have all types of mechanical tools and technology to do much of the work they would do in the past with either people, hand tools, or animals. So if you want to plow a field, or you want to plow a field, tread the field with an ox, they would hook the ox up to a plow. A plow is essentially it's made out of wood and metal typically, or maybe just wood, and it's something that you strap around the shoulders of the ox, and he pulls the blade across the field, and once he pulls the blade across the field, the dirt in the field gets loose. I mean, you needed to be loose in order to plant crops. And then this scripture once again is very merciful even to an animal. It's saying that when you tread that field, when you plow with the ox, don't muzzle the ox, meaning don't make it impossible for the ox while he's doing his work to eat any of the corn, eat any of the crops while he's on the field. And once again, that is just something that is just merciful even to an animal, to say you working, the ox is working. I could just say you ain't gonna eat none of this corn because I'm gonna sell this corn. I'm gonna use this corn to make my money. I'm gonna use this corn so I can eat it. But while you're using it, ox, you are to be overbearing or to be oppressive even to this animal, and that's how merciful the Most High is. That's how righteous the Most High is. That's how righteous Israelite culture is. That even an animal we allow him to eat while he works. Read on.
Verse 5. If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her.
You have brothers. And I just give a scenario. You got two brothers. You have two brothers. One of them is married. At least one of them is married. And the one that is married dies. He dies. Once he dies, that woman, because his wife, that widow, is not to go marry a stranger. Meaning, to go marry, in this instance, it's talking about marry somebody random, marry somebody outside of the family. That sister is to marry the brother who died, his brother. His brother is talking about his biological brother. She is to marry him if her husband dies. You know,
and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of a husband's brother unto her.
And he will take her as a wife. He would do his duty and take her as a wife. And that will be his wife, and he'll have all the responsibility of taking care of his husband's wife. You know, so like his husband's as the husband's brother, he'll take on all the duties of being that husband's brother and taking care of his wife and taking her on as his wife, and once his brother is passed away.
Question, right? Everything that was just explained, then say, well, the duty of a husband brother to her. Is that the duty of a husband brother?
Yes, it's the duty of a husband brother in this particular instance. Second.
What they just explained?
Yes, the duty of a husband's brother in this particular instance is if the brother dies and he's married, that brother is to take on his wife. That's his duty. That's his duty if the brother dies. Go ahead.
And that's the brotherly thing to do. You understand? Because leaving that sister, you know, as a widow, now she has no duty to no man. You understand? It's a brother's job to now continue his legacy. You understand? Through his wife. You understand? And it may sound wild because today, you understand, like people just have consensual, you know, sex, right? They do whatever they want. But according to the Bible, you understand, it is righteous for, you know, when a man dies and his wife is just, you know, just still there, his brother should be able to be a brother. You know why? Because in the Bible it teaches regeneration. That brother will come back through, you understand, that brother. So, you know, that's how you keep your bloodline alive. That's how we keep our tradition. That's how we keep our culture. That's how we keep, you understand, growing as a nation. You know, they teach us about abortion and all that, you know, just the you know, population control. This right here will be able to help, you know, bring back our ancestors, you know, and keep the lineage going. Because you got brothers and sisters that, you know, according to the Bible, they'll deal outside of the nation. We got brothers dealing with white women, Chinese women, and all that. That does not, you know, understand. I mean, according to the Bible, the man is the one that produces the seed, right? But you have sisters who would deal with, you know, men that's outside of the nation. That does not bring us back. You understand? We are the seed of our father, and this right here is just teaching for real is brotherhood, and in a sense, understanding what reincarnation is. It's like,
yeah, and it's a way to maintain families, maintain and that woman that was a part of when she took on her husband, she was a part of that family, a part of that particular group of people. And once her husband dies, this is a way for her to maintain in that family. And like Barzal said, with this last verse we're gonna read is gonna go into. It's a way to keep the brother's legacy, the brother that died, to keep his legacy alive and keep his generations going. You know?
Deuteronomy 24 and verse 6. And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead.
And like we said, that brother, he's gonna take on that his brother's wife, his dead brother's wife. He's gonna take her on, and the child they had, the firstborn they had, is gonna be. And the firstborn that he had is going to be named after the brother that died. Go ahead.
Can you have sex with your cousin?
Can you cut? The scriptures say where there is no law, there is no sin. There's no particular law about having sex with your cousin. I would say though, but the scriptures also say that there may be things that are I'm paraphrasing, but there may be things that are lawful, meaning that you can do, but that aren't expedient. So there's no particular law about being with your cousin, but it may not always be the best thing to do. The main two reasons I can think why it wouldn't be a good idea is either because sometimes it can be too close to inbreeding. It's not necessarily inbreeding, but it could be too close. And the kids that you could have could possibly, it's a higher risk that they would have health issues. The other reason is that maybe it's just not socially acceptable. Your family wouldn't like it. Right. Your grandma just wouldn't. Your grandma wouldn't like that you with your cousin, and why go through the trouble?
No, I remember that because my cousin, she had asked me that, and I had, replied with the same thing. And I'm kind of like, because I'm kind of like getting back to all the female women in my family, and when I'm around them, but I'm receiving in my spirit, I'm like, it's like, hey, it's coming from the word, but I'm like, then other things, my understanding is beginning to open up at the same time, in this sense, so what you had spoke on, as far as your wisdom when you said, your grandma might not,
yeah, she
because that's because of the European teachings. You know what I mean? But like you said, that word that you hit on the nose, what the Bible says.
Everything that is lawful it may be lawful, but I'm paraphrasing. It may be lawful, but it's not expedient, meaning it's not the wise thing to do.
But no, you said where is
where there is no law, there is no sin.
All right.
Where there's no law, you find out. I just give the scripture. Where there's no law, there is no sin. Like I said, there's no particular law against that. So I can't say that you can't do it, but it just might not be the best thing to do. But where there's no law, there's no sin.
So it doesn't matter mother or father side?
So listen, right? What keeps coming to my spirit on this sense was Jacob. Remember Jacob went to his Jacob was sent to his old house,
right?
And he liked his old Jordan.
I was going to say that in times when we had smaller populations, it was definitely necessary in order to if you want to stay within your own race of people, and because the populations were smaller, you may have had to be with somebody that was close to being blood related to you, or close to being in your family line, your particular family line.
No, look.
But as populations grow, it becomes less necessary because it's people that aren't so close to my particular family.
If I could elaborate what you're saying so heavy cat. With Jacob going to his uncle Laban is spiritual too, because Jacob told them not to marry the daughters of Esau, the daughters of Ishmael, not to go and marry those heathens. That's why Jacob had to go and marry Laban, his Laban's daughters, Leah and Rachel. And that goes in, today, if I may, today that would be you not going out and marrying, you know what I mean, these heathens and staying within, you know, your tribes, you know what I mean, your sisters, you know what I mean, that are Israelites. You know, like, because Esau went and disobeyed, you know what I mean, his father. He disobeyed Isaac, you know what I mean, and Rebekah went off and married different heathen women. Where Jacob obeyed his father, obeyed, you know what I mean, the Most High, when he married, you know what I mean, his cousin. And even when, paraphrasing when Laban said to him, he said, now art thou bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. He quoted Adam. Because when he married Eve, you know what I mean, one of the Eve, you know what I mean, he said, now you are bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Now we family, we want unity. That's what makes what Cap Ariah is saying is so heavy. It's important, you know what I mean, to stick with your own.
Right.
That was okay.
So one more question.
You go ahead.
Is it righteous or just if your uncle bless you with one of his daughters?
Is
or
it
you
righteous?
bless your nephew with one of your daughters?
It's in general. Okay, and you asking me, is it righteous if your uncle offers for you to marry his daughter? So, you asking, is it righteous if your uncle or uncle offers his daughter to marry a nephew?
I'm gonna give you a woman.
In general, it could be in general. Overall, it depends on the situation. A lot of these things are on a situation-to-situation basis, but in general, it could be a righteous gesture. It could be what's the word I'm looking for? Generous. It could be generous. It could be a way of him trying to, like I said, stay within his family and keep the bloodline secure and not go out of his family. In general, it could be considered a righteous gesture or a generous gesture. Yes.
Another question. Do you think that God approved of it? Because, you know, one thing I was looking at, right? Because I'm sitting there like, wow, Jacob, the man gave him his first of all, he was like, oh, can I get your daughter? Sarah, she nice, I like her. And he was like, all right, work for you, you got it. But then he gave him Sarah. So he's like, no, I wanted the younger one, Rachel. All right, work for me again. All right. And he worked for him, and he got both of them, right? So, but you know, in that sense, he was deceived at the same time with the oldest, but he got both of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I'm looking in that sense, and then, you know, in a higher sense, I looked up to God. So my question is this authorized by God? You know, because I'm thinking it's authorized by
It's what authorized?
That he married both of them, because I'm looking at the prophecy of that 12 nations, 12 tribes will come by them. He prophesied to Abraham that 12 tribes.
Okay, well, it was definitely, you can definitely say it was authorized because out of those people, even though not everything is going to happen. And this is like in general. Not everything is going to happen the way you want it to happen. Not everything is going to happen how you want it to happen, but the way the Lord wants it to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
If the Lord decides for you to marry, if the Lord decided for him to marry the sister that he wasn't all the way attracted to, that he all the way didn't want, that was the Lord's will. And all of it ended up in Israel coming out anyway. The 12 tribes coming anyway. And the scriptures also say, what the Most High brought together, no man can bring apart. Paraphrasing. So the Most High wanted him to marry those sisters, and he did. All of that, him being deceived, like I said, is just how things happen at times where the way you wanted things to go, or the way we want things to go in our particular lives, don't always pan out that way. But what the Lord wants to happen is always happening all the time. Say again? Our thoughts are not his thoughts. His ways are not our ways. The way he wants things to happen are happening at all times. That doesn't necessarily mean it's how we planned it. But in the end, the objective is the same. The objective is that the Most High raised a nation out of Jacob, even though it didn't happen exactly how Jacob made it planned. Yeah. But it's all the will of the Most High. Because without it, we wouldn't have the 12 tribes of Israel.
Right.
It's all the will of the Go,
This is the book of Romans, the 4th chapter and the 15th verse. Romans 4 and 15. Because the law worketh wrath, for where no law is, there is no transgression.
Where there's no law, there's no transgression. Transgression is to disobey God's laws. To disobey God's laws, that is what a transgression is. That's what sin is. A transgression of the Most High's laws. To turn your back on the Lord's laws, disobey God's laws. That's transgression. Right. That is sin. Now, where there is no law, there is no transgression. So like I said before, as far as the whole cousin thing or marrying your cousin, there's no law about it. There's nowhere in the Bible that says, no, you cannot do it. No, you cannot be with your cousin. There's no law about it. So therefore, there's no sin. If you do it, it's not a sin. But that's when like I said, that's when it comes into play, whether or not it's the wise thing to do. Because it's not a sin to go. What's that shit called? People doing bungee. What's that shit when they jump off with the string to their feet?
Bungee jump.
It's not a sin to go bungee cord diving, but is that the wise thing to do? Is the rope tight? is the bridge secure? There's many things that are not sins, meaning you aren't disobeying the Most High by doing it, but it still may not be a wise decision. And once again, that's why we have counsel in ISUPK. We have people you can go to solve all those issues, or to figure out whether or not something is wise or unwise.
If I may just elaborate on something I said too, with Jacob did with his sister, with Laban and Rachel,
right.
or with Rachel and Leah. You know what I mean? What cannot be done, and it's in the law, you can't marry two sisters.
Come.
So, that's not saying we're, okay, I'm not explain. Like today, you can't marry two sisters because of what happened with Rachel and Leah. I believe the precept is Leviticus 18 and 18, where that wedge that God put between them, and the Lord saw that and said, all right, you can't marry two sisters, that are sisters. So let's say you do marry, your cousin, and then she has a younger sister. You can't marry both of them.
Right.
So that's the same thing, like if you, find us a random sister that's an Israelite, you know what I mean? You can marry her, but if she has an older or younger sister, you cannot marry her because of what happened with Leah and Rachel. That's all.
Yeah, and that's the law. That's the law now today. Like all the laws still in effect. You can't be with your sister because, like Yediah is saying, it causes a great strain on their relationship and causes great jealousy between the two sisters. So you can't marry two sisters. You can't marry two women that are related, that are sisters. Go ahead.
In Romans 4 and 15, that was the verse that was called out.
Yeah, 4 and 15.
Come.
Yeah, that was Romans 4 and 15 about the where there is no law, where there is no sin, where there is no law, there is no transgression.
Come. In the first part of the verse, where it says, "Where the law worketh wrath," is that talking about the punishment of the law?
Yes. Yes. That context. But yes, anytime any scripture like that is talking about the law, the law with the wrath, talking about the punishments of the law, not the not even important part, not the don't kill part, the part of the punishment, and how the continual punishment can create wrath, because it's destroy you. Punishment is me or a priest killing somebody, destroying somebody, stoning somebody for disobeying God's law. That's the wrath. And those commandments about killings, the punishments are commandments. Those are that's a law in itself. That's a commandment in itself. The part where it says to kill these certain type of people, to cast these certain type of people out, that is a law. It's a law, but it's a law. It's a commandment for the priest. The thou shalt not kill is just for everybody. But the commandment that talks about what to do with murderers, the commandment that talks about what to do with rapists, that's a commandment particularly for the people in charge, for the priests,
right,
to interact. But that in itself is a law. Go ahead.
So in these schools, right, I see law and deception, right? Because Jacob married Sarah because because Laban deceived him, right? Laban deceived him, right? So according to was it a just thing to do for him to receive it? Because that is law.
Was it just thing for them to receive what?
Because he was deceived.
Was it just thing for them to receive the next? I wouldn't think about it like that. I wouldn't think he received the second one because that's the one he was promised That's the one he was promised already.
Yeah.
The reason Laban did what he did was because who was the one he married first?
Leah.
The reason Laban deceived them and gave Leah away first is because Leah was older. Leah was older, and then traditionally you would never give the younger before the older. You would always marry off the older one first, and then the younger. So Laban did that because, like I said, it was just out of the tradition. It was in Laban's eyes as a father. It's wrong for him to give away the younger daughter before the older one, because the older one is the priority. Because the older you get, the more undesirable you are to people, to men. So it's best to just get the older one out of the way first. That's why Laban did that. The reason that he got the second one, because that's the one he was promised anyway, but he still had to work for it because he was getting 2 ribs.
So he had to get moved from court to
because they already agreed. He already agreed to it anyway. He already agreed to that anyway. That's why he got Sarah. Yeah, I wouldn't say it wasn't necessarily the just thing to do. I wouldn't think about it that way. But it just happened because that's the one he already agreed anyway. But he still had to work because he was getting 2 ribs. We're gonna read verse 6 and we're gonna send the prayers back to that. Read verse 6 one more time.
Deuteronomy 24:25, verse 6. And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead.
And once again, that brother who dies, his brother will take on his wife. He'll have a child with that woman, and that firstborn son, he will be named after the brother that died. He will be named after, I guess that's his uncle technically. That's his uncle. He'll be dead. He'll be named after his uncle. So the name of his uncle will still stay in the nation. So his legacy will still go on through his brother. And that way you support the sister and you keep the legacy going of that man that died. We're gonna tell the prayers. We start at 26. What's up? Oh, you didn't read 6 yet, my bad. Yeah, go ahead.
That his name be not put out of Israel.
That his name be not put out of Israel. You're gonna have that brother gonna have that son. He's gonna name that son after the brother that died. So the name of that brother, so the legacy of that brother can live on in Israel. Through that son and through his brother that's still alive. With that, imagine everybody here. You gonna blow the horn?
God.
How about Shem Yahshua La Yasher Allah, which means to Israel.
Like you said, he said, La Yasha'Allah, which means to Israel. Right now, he's having a drink for Israel, having a sip of wine for Israel. Now everybody can imagine, which means to stand in Hebrew. We're gonna salute the Torah. You're gonna say, Brother Allah gonna show you what to do. But what you're gonna say is Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barak Yah, which means the Most High in the name of Christ bless me.
Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Barak Yah. All right. gonna step forth. We're gonna salute the
You can
Torah.
show, you can show me one time. You might use that.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah,
well,
come.
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Bashem,
Bashem,
Yahusha,
Yahweh,
Barak,
Barak,
Yah.
Yah.
That's it.
Once again, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shah, Barak Yah, which means the Most High, in the name of Christ, bless me.
Barak,
Barak,
Yah.
that's it.
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Bashem,
Bashem,
Yahusha,
Yahusha,
Barak, Yah.
Barak, Yah.
And that scroll has the with the Torah in it. I believe the first 5 books is in that scroll.
Yahweh, Bashem, Yahusha, Barak, Yah. That's all I want.
Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shah, Barak Yah. Imagine, which means it stands.
Stand up, brother.
The poem, why we don't turn to face the east, now we're going to set the prayers up.
Turn to face the east. You want to about face. We're gonna send up the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew and then translate it into English.
It's a lot, you know, though. We pray, we lift up our holy hands. God.
Repeat after me. Abanaw.
Abanaw.
Shabbat Shemayim.
Shabbat Shemayim.
Wadah.
Wadah.
Hayah.
Hayah.
Shamkah.
Shamkah.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Lapuka.
Lapuka.
Aba'ah. Atazayka.
Atazayka.
Hayah.
Hayah.
Aisha.
Aisha.
Barakazah.
Barakazah.
Kawah.
Kawah.
Hayah.
Hayah.
Hashemayim.
Hashemayim.
Dadanaw.
Dadanaw.
Lakam. Kaw.
Kaw.
Yowab.
Yowab.
Masalak now.
Masalak now.
Abawak now.
Abawak now.
Masalak now.
Masalak now.
Abawak now.
Abawak now.
Wala'ah.
Wala'ah.
Abiyayin now.
Abiyayin now.
Wanasayawun.
Wanasayawun.
Abo.
Abo.
Awashayin now.
Awashayin now.
Mayan.
Mayan.
Ra.
Ra.
Kayan.
Kayan.
Lakab.
Lakab.
Amalakwa.
Amalakwa.
Wala'ah. Wafakara.
Wafakara.
Awaloyum.
Awaloyum.
Amma.
In the English. Our Father which art in heaven.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done.
In earth.
In earth.
As it is in heaven.
As it is in heaven.
Give us this day.
Give us this day
our daily bread.
our daily bread.
Give us our debts.
And forgive us our
As
debts.
we forgive our debtors.
As we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation.
And lead us not into temptation,
But deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom.
For thine is the kingdom,
And the power.
and the power,
And the glory.
and the glory,
Forever.
forever.
So be it.
So be it. This is the Hakak, the prayer for the power.
Hashem.
Baba Kishore.
Baba Kishore.
Wadananaw.
Wadananaw.
Hakak. Hakak. Arapa'ah. Ka'malawah. Ka'malawah. Hakak. Yatahor. Ramatazaroi. Hakak. Yahakwiya. Amakwiya. Hakak. Arakawa. Atama Allah. The word should. Hashem Yahushua. Wanamut.
Play the prayer to bless Israel in the Hebrew song. I'm sorry, prayer for the power in the English. Yahweh in the name of Yahushua.
Yahweh in the name of Yahushua.
Please give us the power.
Please give us the
The
power,
power to heal.
the power to heal
All manner of sickness.
all manner of sickness,
And all manner of disease.
and all manner of disease.
The power to cleanse the leper.
The power to cleanse the leper,
The power to raise the dead.
the power to raise the dead,
The power against that clean spirit.
the power against unclean spirits,
To cast them out.
to cast them out.
In the name of Yahushua.
In the name of Yahushua.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So be it.
So be it.
It's a prayer to bless Israel in Hebrew. Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Ba'ashem Yahushua.
Ba'ashem Yahushua.
Barak Lana.
Barak Lana.
Ba'yashua Allah.
Ba'yashua.
Ba'yabayah. Support. Ba'ashem Yahushua.
Ba'ashem Yahushua.
Ba'amut.
Pray to bless Israel in the English. Yahweh in the name Yahushua.
Yahweh in the name Yahushua.
Bless us.
Bless us.
And Israel.
And Israel.
And the school.
And the school.
In the name Yahushua.
In the name Yahushua.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So be it.
So big. It's a prayer for the blessings in Hebrew. Barak Atah Yahweh.
Barak Atah Yahweh.
Yahushua.
Yahushua.
Wa'mayata Allah.
Wa'mayata Allah.
Wa'alahai.
Wa'alahai.
Wa'tazaba'ah.
Wa'tazaba'ah.
Alawak Yahan.
Alawak Yahan.
Alawak you.
Alawak.
Hasuray.
Hasuray.
Akwasisayay.
Akwasisayay.
Akayayay.
Akayayay.
Wa'wak.
Wa'wak.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Ba'ashem Yahushua.
Ba'ashem Yahushua.
Wa'amut.
In English. Bless you, Yahweh.
Bless you, Yahweh.
And Yahushua.
And Yahushua.
And Michael.
And Michael.
And the angels.
And the angels.
Commander General Yahan.
Commander General Yahan.
General.
The general.
The captain.
The captains.
The officers.
The officers.
The troopers.
The troopers.
And the sisters.
And the sisters.
Yahweh in the name Yahushua.
Yahweh in the name of Yahushua.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So be it.
So big. This is Psalms 121 in Hebrew. Aisha'ah. Ayanya. Al-Hahori. Ba'ayun. Yaba'ah. I'm sorry. Ba'ayn. Yahweh. I'm Shamay. Ba'araktazah. Al-Yathun. Number what? Regal. Al-Yanawam. Morka. Hanala'ah. Yanawam. Wala'ah. Yayashun. Shalamor. Yashua Allah. Yahweh. Morka. Yahweh. Zalka. Al-Ya. Yum Yakub. Yawamur. Hashemat. La'ah. Yakanka. Wayarab. Wayayawa. Yahweh. Yashamor. Bakara. Yashamor. Napashka. Yahweh. Yashamor.
I will lift up my eyes to the hills. From which cometh my help?
From whence cometh my help?
My help coming from the Lord.
My help cometh from the Lord.
Which made heaven and earth.
Which made heaven and earth.
He will not suffer thy foot to be moved.
He will not suffer thy foot to be
He that
moved.
keepeth thee.
He that keepeth thee
Will not slumber.
will not slumber.
Behold.
Behold,
He that keepeth Israel.
he that keepeth
Shall
Israel
neither slumber nor sleep.
shall neither slumber nor
The
sleep.
Lord is thy keeper.
The Lord is thy keeper.
The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand.
The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand.
The sun shall not smite thee by day.
The sun shall not smite thee by day,
Nor the moon by night.
nor the moon by night.
The Lord shall reserve thee from all evil.
The Lord shall preserve thee from all
He
evil.
shall reserve thy soul.
He shall preserve thy
The
soul.
Lord shall reserve thy going out.
The Lord shall preserve thy going out
And thy coming in.
and thy coming in.
From this time forth.
From this time forth.
And even forevermore.
And even forevermore. Psalms 83 in the Hebrew. Alayim.
Alayim.
Al-Tamiyalaka.
Al-Tamiyalaka.
Al-Dakarat.
Al-Dakarat.
Al-Dashakwat.
Al-Dashakwat.
Kayahana.
Kayahana.
Al-Yakyaka.
Al-Yakyaka.
Yahabuk.
Yahabuk.
Yawud. Ra'at.
Ra'at.
Al-Aymaka.
Al-Aymaka.
Darayamwa. Sawadat. Wayathlab. Ya'ay-Tazawur. Al-Tazapawani. Amorwa. Lakawat. Wanakakia. Magalia. Wala'ah. Yazakor. Sham Yashua Allah. Aywada. Kaya. Ya'ay-Tazawur. Yakadwa. Al-Yakab. Boryat. Yakarakwa. Alahayim. Alawum. Wayashamai. Alayim. Mawa'aba. Wahagoriya. Gabor. Wa'aymuwan. Wa'aymulak. Falashak. Amyashabya. Tazawur. Kamashawur. Yalawat. Aymuk. Hayawat.
Ayawat.
Zorawat.
Zorawat.
Labayalawat.
Labayalawat.
Salat.
Salat.
Aishalahum.
Aishalahum.
Kamayan.
Kamayan.
Kasayat.
Kasayat.
Sara'at.
Sara'at.
Kayabyan.
Kayabyan.
Manakal.
Manakal.
Wayashwa.
Wayashwa.
Yashamadwa.
Yashamadwa.
Ba'ayan.
Ba'ayan.
Da'ara.
Da'ara.
Ayawat.
Ayawat.
Laban.
Laban.
Ba'adadma.
Ba'adadma.
Sayadamwa.
Sayadamwa.
Tadabyatma.
Tadabyatma.
Kaira.
Kaira.
Wakazabak. Wakazabak.
Wakazabak.
Wakazatawanar.
Wakazatawanar.
Kal Nasiya Kamwa.
Nasiya Kamwa.
Ashur.
Ashur.
Amorwa. Ayashak.
Ayashak.
Lanawat.
Lanawat.
Nawat.
Nawat.
Alahayam.
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 Sayadamwa.
Sayadamwa.
Wakabila.
Wakabila.
Wakwat.
Wakwat.
Wakwayarakat.
Wakwayarakat.
Ka'at. Sama ayah ya ayah.
Sama ayah ya ayah.
Wakalabak.
Wakalabak.
Wakalat.
Kalahat.
Harayam.
Harayam.
Come.
Come.
Daradadma.
Daradadma.
What's the Iraka?
What's the Iraka?
Wapasa.
Wapasa.
Wapaka.
Wapaka.
Wamahalam.
Mahalam.
Mala'ah.
Mala'ah.
Panyaham.
Panyaham.
For the one.
one.
Ayabakwaswa.
Ayabakwaswa.
Shanka.
Shanka.
Yahoo.
Yahoo.
Wapaswa.
Wapaswa.
Ayabahanwa.
Ayabahanwa.
Ayabain.
Ayabain.
Ayabapadwa.
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 Ayadainwa.
Ayadainwa.
Ayada. Shanka.
Shanka.
Yahoo.
Yahoo.
Wapaka.
Wapaka.
Ayawan.
Ayawan.
Alkaharatazar. In English.
Keep not thy silence, O Yahweh.
Keep not thy silence, O Yahweh.
Hold not thy peace.
Hold not thy peace.
And be not still, O Yahweh.
And be not still, O Yahweh.
For lo, thy enemies make a tumble.
Thy enemies make a tumble.
And they that hate thee.
And they that hate thee
have lifted up the head.
have lifted up the
They
head.
have taken crafty counsel.
They have taken crafty counsel
Against thy people.
against thy people.
And consulted.
And consulted
Against thy hidden ones.
against thy hidden one.
They have said.
They have said,
Come, let us cut them off.
let us cut them off
From being a nation.
from being a nation.
The name of Israel.
That the name of Israel
be no more.
may be no more.
In remembrance.
In remembrance.
For they have consulted together.
For they have consulted together
With one consent.
with one consent.
They are confederate against thee.
They are confederate against thee.
Tabernacles of Edom.
The tabernacles of Edom
And the Ishmaelites.
and the Ishmaelites.
Of Moab.
Of Moab.
And the Hagarenes.
And the Hagarenes.
Of Gaul.
Gabal.
And
And
Amalek.
And Amalek.
The Philistines.
The Philistines.
The inhabitants of Tyre.
With the inhabitants of Tyre.
Ashur also was joined with them.
Ashur is also joined with them.
They have hope in the children of Lot.
They have hope for the children of Lot.
Say Lot.
Selah.
Do unto them.
Do unto
As
them
unto the Midianites.
as unto the Midianites.
As to Sisera.
As to Sisera.
As to Jabin.
As to Jabin.
At the brook of Kishon.
At the brook of Esau.
Perished at Endor.
Which perished at Endor.
They became as dung for the earth.
They became as dung for the earth.
Make their nobles like a red.
Make their nobles like Oreb.
Yeah.
And like Ziad.
Yeah.
Yea.
All their princes.
All their princes.
As Zabah.
As Zabah.
And as Zamunah.
And as Zamunah.
Who said.
Who said,
Let us take to ourselves.
let us take to ourselves
The house of Yahweh.
the houses of Yahweh
Possession.
and possession.
Oh my power.
Oh my power.
Make them like a wind.
Make them like a wind.
As the stubble before the wind.
As the stubble before the wind.
As the fire burneth the wood.
As the fire burneth the wood.
And as the flame setteth the mountains on fire.
And as the flame setteth the mountains on fire.
So persecute them.
So persecute
With
them
thy tempest.
with thy
And
tempest.
make them afraid.
And make them
With
afraid
thy storm.
with thy sword.
Fill their faces with shame.
Fill their faces with shame.
That they seek thy name.
That they may seek thy name.
O Yahweh.
O Yahweh.
Let them be confounded.
Let them be confounded.
And troubled forever.
And troubled forever.
Yea.
Yea.
Let them be put to shame.
Let them be put to shame.
And perish.
And perish.
That men may know.
That men may know
That thou.
that thou,
Whose name alone.
whose name alone
Is Yahweh.
is Yahweh,
Are the most high.
art the most high
Over all the earth.
over all the earth.
Saul, which means turn back around. In the original, we're going to give one courteous salute. Imagine Shabbat. Imagine Barak.
Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shabbat.
Y'all do my time, which means hands down. We're gonna turn and face the sister side of the class. Many brothers, we're gonna give one courteous salute to the sisters. Imam Shabbat, Imajin, Barak,
Yahweh Shema, Hashem Yahushua.
Yajim Matap, class is smooth. Now, if any brother would want to be anointed, you can come up now.
Oh, God.
You gonna run today.
We talk about some damn push-ups.